The year was 1825. Java was restless. The Dutch East Indies had grown bloated with power, and their influence seeped into every inch of native life, from the palace to the rice fields. But then one man said enough. A Javanese prince turned religious mystic, Diponegoro, unleashed a rebellion that would leave a mark so deep the Dutch never fully recovered. This is the story of the Java War, the bloodiest conflict ever fought on Indonesian soil under colonial rule, led by a man who refused to bow. Diponegoro was not your typical prince. Born in 1785 by the name of Bendara Raden Mas Mustahar and later known as Bendara Raden Mas Antawirya. As the eldest son of Sultan Hamengkubuwono III of Yogyakarta, he chose a life far from the luxuries of the royal court. He wore simple robes, lived humbly, and was deeply devout. While others chased power, he studied the Quran and the prophecies of old Javanese texts, especially those that warned of a coming chaos and the rise of a savior known as the Ratu Adil, the just king. Diponegoro watched with growing anger as the Dutch began undermining his people. They imposed heavy taxes, controlled royal succession, and humiliated Javanese traditions. But it wasn't just politics, it was spiritual desecration. The balance between ruler, people, and nature, what the Javanese called the cosmical balance, was breaking. Then came the final insult. In 1825, Dutch authorities began building a road that cut directly through Diponegoro's ancestral graveyard, sacred ground that symbolized his family's connection to Java's past. To the Dutch, it was infrastructure. To Diponegoro, it was a violation of the cosmos. He retreated into prayer and fasting, and when he emerged, he was transformed. He wore white, rode a white horse, and began referring to himself in prophetic language. He was no longer just a prince. In the eyes of the people, he had become the Ratu Adil, the messianic figure foretold to restore justice and spiritual harmony to Java. This wasn't a rebellion, it was a divine mission, and the people answered the call. Thousands rallied to his side, peasants, clerics, disillusioned nobles. Armed with little more than blades and belief, they rose against Dutch outposts. His forces used guerrilla tactics, attacking quickly, then vanishing into the forests and hills of central Java. For the first time, the Dutch weren't facing just rebels. They were facing a revolution, powered by religion, prophecy, and people. From 1825 to 1828, Diponegoro's army dominated the battlefield. Towns fell. Dutch supplies were cut. They called it the war without a face, an invisible enemy that struck from the shadows. The Dutch underestimated just how deeply Diponegoro's spiritual message had taken root. Fighters believed dying in this war meant martyrdom. The Dutch weren't just fighting men, they were fighting faith. The tide began to turn when the Dutch appointed General Hendrik Merkus de Kock. He devised the Benteng Stelsel, a network of hundreds of small forts designed to isolate rebel zones. Roads and strongholds choked off Diponegoro's supply lines. Then came the scorched earth tactics. Villages suspected of aiding rebels were burned. Crops were destroyed. The cost was catastrophic. Thousands of civilians died, but Diponegoro refused to surrender. By 1830, the Dutch offered peace talks. Exhausted but dignified, Diponegoro agreed to meet in Magelang. But what awaited him wasn't diplomacy, it was betrayal. Under the false promise of negotiation, he was arrested. The Dutch had finally captured their greatest threat, but they broke their own honor to do it. Diponegoro was exiled, first to Manado, then to Fort Rotterdam in Makassar, where he lived the rest of his life in captivity. He He died in 1855, far from the land he fought to protect. But his legacy, unstoppable. His rebellion had cost the Dutch over 15,000 European soldiers and led to the death of more than 200,000 Javanese, a trauma that left deep scars, but also forged a national spirit. Even in defeat, Diponegoro's name became sacred. He was a symbol of resistance, and to this day, one of Indonesia's greatest national heroes. Prince Diponegoro didn't just fight a war. He fulfilled a prophecy, challenged an empire, and ignited a flame that would burn long after his death. This is not just history, it's our legacy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to follow more epic stories from Indonesia's past. Only on Historindo.